Hi dear students, welcome back to the second session of Constitutional Design of Class 9th Democratic Politics. Already in last class we discussed the constitutional preparation of South Africa, and today we are going to discuss the making of the Indian Constitution. What was the condition and circumstances prevailed in India before and during the preparation of the Constitution of India? We will also understand in detail the Constituent Assembly, how it functioned, who were the important members, and which were the important ideas that consist. Dear students, let's start the topic making of the Indian Constitution. Here we are going to understand what was the condition of India when we think or when we start preparing the Indian Constitution. You know, India got independence in 1947. India was partitioned as Pakistan and India in 1948, and Indian Constitution came to force in 1950. So there were lots of chaotic and confused situation in our country during this time. The making of the Constitution for a huge and diverse country like India was not an easy affair. You know, India has diversity in each and everything. Every state, every community is different. The country was born through a partition on the basis of religious difference. That is what we have seen in 1948. Around 10 lakh people were killed on both sides of India as well as the Pakistan. In such a situation, we have to think, we have to plan a constitution, which is the basic rule that affect each and every citizen of the country. Other than this, the British had left the princely states of India as it is. As their wish, they may join with India, or they may merge with Pakistan, or they may remain as independent. You know, around more than 600 princely states were there in India. These states were not integrated. It was a very difficult and uncertain task. So, the makers of the Indian Constitution had anxieties about the present and the future of the country. But, dear children, here there was one positive side, one pleasant matter. That was, unlike South Africa, in India, during the freedom struggle, we had already created a consensus, means a general agreement with the people related to India's future. That means our national movement was not merely a struggle against the British. It was a struggle to rejuvenate or to recreate or to reform our country and to transform the society as well as the politics. We have socio-religious movements. We had a struggle against the blind beliefs and social inequalities. So during the freedom struggle itself, we had already projected what India actually going to make ourselves. But no doubt that there was lots of sharp different opinion among the people, among the leaders about lots of the basic ideas of the country, but over this, as a unity in diversity, we have already created a sense of togetherness during the freedom struggle. If you just analyze the circumstances that led to the formation of the Indian Constitution, during British period we had no constitution. We were ruled by British as their wish. But when British left India, when India got freedom in 1947, the first and foremost thing we had made that preparing the constitution. Because without the basic rules laid down, or without the basic rules of the country written and accepted by all the people of the country could not function. There will be lots of confusion about each and everything. If you just analyze the history of the development of the Indian Constitution or the preparation of the Indian Constitution, we may find in 1928, Motilal Nehru and 8 other Congress leaders drafted a constitution for India. So it was the first attempt in 1928 itself. Motilal Nehru and 8 other Congress leaders had drafted a constitution for India. And in 1931, just after 3 years, the Karachi session Indian National Congress also discussed how the independent India's constitution should look like. Because the Indian national leaders and other important politicians of India was sure that India is going to get freedom in recent future. So, when we get independence, we should have the clear-cut ideas. We should have the clear-cut program, basic rules written perfectly. That is the Constitution. So both these documents, prepared in 1928 and 1931, were committed to the inclusion of universal adult franchise. Remember, during British period, British even conducted some elections in India, but it was limited to very few people. So universal adult franchise, that means right to vote, irrespective of caste, creed or gender, was the basic rule that emphasized even in 1928 and 1931 by Indian National Congress. Another important idea this consisted was the right to freedom and equality. Freedom and equality, two important basic ideas. To protect the rights of the minorities. India, you can see the majority of the people are Hindus, but we have the Muslims, we have the Christians, we have the Jains, Buddhists and many other local dialects. All these minorities, even the low caste, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, everything should be protected equally. So that also was an important intention before we prepared the Indian Constitution. So all these basic rules were accepted by all the leaders of India, even much before we prepared the Constituent Assembly. Before we prepared the Indian Constitution, we had some positive impacts from the British rule. First of all, we were very familiar with the political institutions of colonial rule or British. British were very good in legislature, executive and judiciary and military, police and every revenue system, etc., etc. So we have gathered a lots of ideas, basic principles and systems from the colonial rule. We had even the experience of the legislative institutions of British. That also we had familiarity with the British legislative institutions that has helped us to constitute our own legislative institutions. That's why we can see the Indian Constitution has adopted many institutional details and procedures from the India Act of 1935 introduced by British. Dear children, another important benefit we had in India before we prepared the Indian Constitution was years of thinking and discussion about the framework of the Indian Constitution. As I told you, from 1920s, during the non-cooperation movement itself, the important political leaders of our country had already started thinking about the preparation of Indian Constitution. Many of our leaders were inspired by the ideals of French Revolution. We have even gathered the ideas from the practices of the parliamentary democracy in Britain. We have even got inspiration from the Bill of Rights in US. The socialist revolution of Russia have inspired many Indians to think of shaping a system based on the social and economic equality. Dear children, just we are discussing now what were the circumstances that India had before we prepared the Constitution, and what were the important path that modified or that mended the preparation of Indian Constitution. Dear children, now let's move to the Constituent Assembly. What was Constituent Assembly? Why was it formed? Constituent Assembly is an assembly that was elected to prepare the constitution of our country. Remember, a constitution is the basic rules of the country cannot be prepared by a small institution or few people. It should include all the members, all the representatives of the communities, the states of our country. So, the drafting of the document called the Constitution was done by an assembly of elected representatives called the Constituent Assembly. In 1946, we had an election to the Constituent Assembly. And after this election, in 1946 December, the Constituent Assembly met its first meeting. As you know, soon after 1946, we had the Independence Declaration and the partition of India. India was divided into India and Pakistan. So the Constituent Assembly also was divided into the Constituent Assembly of India and the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan. The Constituent Assembly that wrote the Indian Constitution consisted 299 members. Remember, 299 Indian political leaders, social reformers, intelligent community included in this. This Constituent Assembly adopted the Constitution on 26 November 1949, and ultimately, it came to effect on 26 January 1950 that we celebrate as the Republic Day of India in every year. Now we have to think, why should we accept the constitution made by this assembly more than 7 decades? The Constitution of India was prepared in 1950 and now it is almost 70 years over. But there are many things that underline, that emphasize the genuinity, the perfection of the preparation of Indian Constitution. First of all, the Indian Constitution, it expresses a broad consensus of its time. Many countries of the world have had to rewrite their constitution, but Indian Constitution has not even rewritten any time. Though the amendments were made, no question over the sanctity of the Indian Constitution has ever happened. No doubt, over last 70 years, many groups have questioned some provisions of the Indian Constitution, but nobody has questioned the legitimacy of the Indian Constitution. So this is a great achievement. It's an unusual achievement for any constitution. The second reason for accepting the Constitution is that the Constituent Assembly represented all the people of India. Remember, there was no universal adult franchise during that time, but the election to the Constituent Assembly was held within the provincial legislatures of our country that ensured the fair geographical share of all the region of the country. Thirdly, the Constituent Assembly represented different members from different language groups, caste, classes, religions and occupations. Because Congress consisted all kind of groups, caste, class and religious people. Finally, the manner in which the Constituent Assembly worked gives sanctity to the Constitution. The Constituent Assembly worked in a systematic, open and clear-cut manner. A drafting committee was prepared. The chairman was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and he prepared a constitution for discussion, and several rounds of thorough discussion took place in the Constituent Assembly. It made more than 2,000 changes, and the members of the Constituent Assembly, they met 114 days discussion. And every document presented and every word spoken in the Constituent Assembly has been recorded and preserved. So you may get it, Constituent Assembly Debates, as a book. When it was printed, it included 12 bulky volumes of books. Even today that is available. So Indian Constitution was prepared in such a great manner. The important leaders who took part in the preparation of the Constitution of India, along with Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, was Rajendra Prasad, Jaipal Singh, H.C. Mukherjee, Baldev Singh, Durgabai Deshmukh, K.M. Munshi, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, Soman Lahiri, Sarojini Naidu, Jawaharlal Nehru and many others. Dear children, today we have discussed the making of the Indian Constitution, the circumstances that prevailed in India before the preparation of Constitution, and what were the challenges we faced, and what are the positive impacts we had from the British rule. Later we have just understood the Constituent Assembly, how it was constituted, how the election was conducted, how many important leaders were there, how many days it functioned, etc. So in next class we will complete the chapter discussing the guiding values of the Indian Constitution, that in detail we will understand. Dear children, read the textbook very thoroughly, underline the important points, prepare your own points, answer the given questions in clear-cut manner, write very neatly and beautifully, and send me the photograph as early as possible. Thank you.